I mean, look, you can't dress it up any other way, to be honest. Like, that's the information that you just need to get to the crux of what you're about to say. If people are saying that there's no communication, all right, well, let's communicate exactly what's happening in the first sentence. Like, I don't want to be 3 or 4 paragraphs into the statement to be like,
hear about
they are actually cancelling it. They've just told us about how they're having a lovely time and they're really looking forward to the future. And it's cancelled. How much is FM? FM's around about 50 quid.
FM's
45 quid.
FM's about half
cheap.
the price. It hasn't moved with inflation, and that's. I mean, and this is sort of where we've got to think about. A lot of people say a lot of things about leadership's got to change or whatever. Football Manager. I'm like, grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
You could have the guy who was in charge at EA and then Unity who wanted to charge for reloads in Battlefield guns. You wouldn't love that, Aaron, if you could be shouting at them into a microphone. Be like, player, and it picks it up and it does it for you.
Nah, I'll probably get arrested if I start people.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the FM show. I'm your host Tony Jameson, joined as always by my right hand man RDF Tactics aka Aaron Falloon, and it's a full house tonight because we're also joined by S.I. Maggio. Maggio, how are you, my friend?
Don't call me that. I'm not taking the blame. I'm not taking the hit on this one.
I was just grooving away. I didn't even realise until he said no.
Not taking the blame for what, Si?
We should rename ourselves the No FM show. That's the...
it's a bit early.
The No
early,
Show FM.
Oh, right. Let's get into it then, shall we? So, at time of recording, it is the 10th of February. Recording schedule is, of course, out of sync ever so slightly. We normally release public episodes on a Thursday, but as has been pointed out in the Discord, we are in our emergency podcast era, which people are quite enjoying at the moment because, as I'm sure you're aware, unless you've been living under a rock, Football Manager 25 has been cancelled, not to be released. Let's go for it then, shall we? So a few things to obviously talk about with regards to the announcement itself, regards to the fallout, regards to our own feelings, regards to what we're going to do for a podcast for the next 9 months as well. There's a few things we've got to try and selfishly plan around that. So, Aaron, we'll come to you first of all. What was your first thoughts? What was your first feelings when you heard the news?
I mean, once it passed the deadline, I think, I just accepted it. I just thought, it's not coming. And you just sort of accept it. And then when the message came, you're just reading through it, and you're like, it's probably for the best. I don't want to be that guy and not be upset about it. I am upset there's no FM25, of course, but at the same time, it is probably the best idea.
Yeah, probably for the best, Si. Is that what you feel as well, or do you have a different view on it?
I feel that's sort of where I was at back in November as well. It's like don't just push it out. And, I think we can get into it a little bit. I don't. What's the best way of phrasing this? I don't know if it was handled the best way without, I'm not gonna. I don't want to put. The one thing I don't want to do is not point fingers or anything like that. Definitely some things could have been done differently. Is it a shame it's not coming out? Yeah, of course. I imagine everyone at Sports Interactive is as. They're going to be more. It's more for them than for us, even, right? There could be all kinds of knock-on effects for them as a studio. So it's not like the time to point fingers necessarily. But it's like, I don't know. It's I've got this view of the game. It's sort of the games industry in a way, and it's like, well, anything could be delayed, right? Assassin's Creed is delayed. GTA gets delayed. Games get delayed. Games get cancelled. Sometimes games get absolutely canned. Sometimes games are dead on arrival when they launch and they're absolutely awful. Sometimes games launch and it takes 2 years before they're any good. You're looking at No Man's Sky, you're looking at Cyberpunk. Well, Football Manager doesn't really have that luxury with its yearly release. If this year's one is bad, well, they've got to rely on next year's one, and maybe people don't buy next year's one. So, I think it's probably for the best. Yeah, hopefully what it means. This is a game we all loved. So and I think that's what it comes down to at the very bottom. is that whatever our feelings are, whether we're angry or annoyed, or I don't think people should be angry. I'm still very much of that point of view. I don't think people should be angry. Aaron will probably disagree, but like, I mean, you could be angry, but I don't think you should direct your anger at anyone. Yeah. You know, but if people are annoyed, disappointed, like I'm disappointed, I'm like, am I upset? I don't know, maybe. Like, you know, I had plans, messed up my plans. I really was really looking forward to the new game. I think they're doing something big with the game. You know, this is something, and in a way, it's something I was disappointed with 23. I was disappointed with 22. I was disappointed even with 21. Like some of these things, I was hoping maybe that's part of it. You know, I was set up for disappointment in the last 4 years of FM. I was like, when's this new match engine? When am I going to get a graphical upgrade so it doesn't look like a MS DOS game? Okay, that's maybe a bit extreme, but the idea that we. Sorry, I'm venting a bit here, but we all done our own videos, right? But when I did my video, I did it like 20 minutes after the announcement at 3 in the morning. So I was like, and then I've just been stewing on it all weekend. So it's probably for the best. And like, I've waited 5 years for a new match engine. I can wait another 6 months, right? 8 months. So I think that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, well let's touch on upon a couple of the points that you've made just there. So first of all, you've said there that you made your video about half an hour after the announcement, and the announcement was at 2:30 in the morning UK time.
I was about to go to bed.
Obviously, there's been a bit of discussion around that now. Again, if you're not familiar with this as to why this has happened, Sega obviously announced they were speaking to their shareholders, weren't they? At the time they were doing shareholder presentation, end of Q3 results, I think. From last end of Q4 from last year, Q3 sorry from last year. So Sega obviously announced it with it being in Japanese time. Some people have suggested that because SI posted about this at 2:30 in the morning, that was to bury the news and hope that no one would know about it. Now that was like, I mean, come on, this is like a Japanese company. Not everything is done at UK time. I mean, it was one of those, Aaron, that we woke up. And we've obviously got a WhatsApp group going on, and we've got Discord groups going on, and we woke up and collectively we all just went, Have you heard?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like trying to get the kids ready for school and going like, well, that's right, kids, there's terrible things happened. I'm just
That's the thing, right? So we got this rule, like you can't instantly look at your phone when you wake up. So like I was up and like obviously you're in a good mood and whatnot. You see the babies and that, and then I just saw my phone. I just saw the notifications, and I think because I saw the amount of notifications, I instantly knew what it was. And then as soon as I instantly read that thing, and I ran straight to the group chat and just asking, "Have you guys heard?" Because that's heartbreaking news to wake up to, man.
It is, and Si, it was another statement. It was another written statement from Sports Interactive. I mean, we'll get into some of the bits of the statement, because again, there's areas that people have picked holes in or fault with, that again we can discuss and debate, rightly or wrongly. A lot of things that have been said before we get into that, again, is this lack of communication from SI, who've said, you know, we're going to try and be as more transparent. It transpires, of course, that because this was part of a shareholders meeting, legally they weren't allowed to say anything. And I know we'd had in our previous discussions, well, the deadline's passed, now what? Why the radio silence? And then we had the emergency podcast of last week, and I mean, even I made a YouTube video last week. That's how sort of out of character it was. I was like, oh, even TJ's going to make a video. This could be something. But then the statement came out, and I mean, well, do you want to go through bits and pieces of it that you've picked out that are areas that you wanted to discuss, or
get it loaded up now? But like, I mean, one thing I was going to point out, some people said, "Oh, you know, why does this shareholder meeting matter?" And I don't want to speak to like the legal and financial aspect, but I will tell you, and this is from a little insight into my real world, is that Japanese shareholder meetings can be very closely guarded due to influence from organized crime groups. Bearing with nothing, no, you know, if you're looking for a name, Sega also happened to make a game with the name of that organized crime group. So yeah, there is a lot of evidence that I'm not suggesting that that's what happened here, but I know that in the past, like like they used to do a thing like I think they used to hold all the shareholding meetings on the same day, so it was impossible for the like all the different companies, so it was impossible for the infiltration of the Yakuza, for example, to like go and because they used to literally turn up at the meetings and cause like trouble and cause.
But it's insider trading as well, isn't it? Like, you know,
yeah, that's it. Like, and so without wanting to speak without, you know, I don't think people can just say, well, why didn't they just say something? They like even just saying we'll say something next week is like a red flag in a way, you know. So I guess probably not saying anything's a red flag also, I'd imagine, but I don't know. I don't know how much of a dent Football Manager puts into Sega. They've got some very big franchises, of course, so it might not have that much of an impact, considering they'll have another game out this year anyway, and they've still got 24 going, so that's still selling. I've got the statement here now.
Let's go through some of these bits because there's some interesting.
Should we break it down line by line, because that's always the most exciting way to dissect it.
I mean, look, we've got 9 months worth of content to fill, so we might as well break it line by line.
Let me share then because at least those joining us in visual form, we'll read it as well for those in audio form. But here it is, right.
Yeah.
Sports Interactive regret to inform that, following extensive internal discussion and careful consideration with Sega, we've made the difficult decision to cancel FM25 and shift our focus to the next release.
Okay.
I think in careful consideration with Sega is, and I think that a lot of people will overlook this, is how much of a say Sega actually have, and it's, I would imagine, considerable. You know, it's not like Sports Interactive or Miles is making a lot of these decisions. You know, actually, I mean, Miles or whoever, like the leadership of Sports Interactive might say it's not ready, we need to delay. That has to be approved. Like, you know, there are partners, there are legal obligations, there are, you know, the platform holders, all of those have to approve it. So it's like, it's not a simple case of, hey, why, you know, why, that was the case back in November. You know, we made that point back in November. I don't know, what do you guys think about the opening bit? I mean, that's obviously like, that's the gut punch, isn't it?
I mean, look, you can't dress it up any other way, to be honest. Like, that's the information that you just need to get to the crux of what you're about to say. If people are saying that there's no communication, all right, well, let's communicate exactly what's happening in the first sentence. Like, I don't want to be 3 or 4 paragraphs into the statement to be like, they are actually cancelling it. They've just told us about how they're having a lovely time and, you know, they're really looking forward to the future, and it's cancelled. Like, you know what, just give it to us straight. And I think that's, you've got to just put it at the top, Aaron, right? As hard as it is, you've just got to get that bad news out in the first line, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's the first 3 words. It's Sports Interactive regret. That's it. There, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
you knew,
it,
didn't you? You knew.
Yeah.
I think I knew the moment I saw there was a statement. I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
done.
the next line as well is one that, again, has been debated a lot online and you know, within the wider space. For the large numbers of you who have pre-ordered FM25, we thank you enormously for your trust and support. We're sorry to have let you down. Now, people have taken umbrage at the idea that there was pre-orders when the game clearly wasn't ready. Now, I think we spoke about this possibly on a previous episode. I'm not sure it was the last one, or maybe it was the episode before, but sometimes when you announce, and someone will obviously be correcting me at this point, I'm sure that when you announce the game is coming, then pre-orders will just naturally be part of, look, we're opening it up now, this is what it's going to be. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. It looks a bit bad in the fact that people have pre-ordered it and are concerned that money has changed hands, but refunds can happen. In fact, there's part of an FAQ that comes attached to the statement. SI have said, look, this is how you go and get a refund. But I think that's, Aaron, where people did feel a little bit like, hang on, you're opening pre-orders and you know the game's not in a fit state at this moment in time. And this was back when it was going to come out in November, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I don't know much about the gaming industry and the legal stuff behind it, so I don't know if, again, do SI have much of a say when it comes to that rollout? Do they get to say, look, we can announce it, but at the same time, maybe let's not let pre-orders out just yet, sort of thing? Or it should simply, they believe that time that the game could be ready by the time it should be ready, so that's why they might have not thought anything of it, basically. It might have just been a normal thing to them. They announce a game, pre-orders open, so they might have just thought, we've announced it, so we clearly believe the game's going to be ready, so you can pre-order the game. So, yeah. But at that time, I think everybody's hot already because, again, you don't hear much from them, and then this is what you hear, basically. So I think people just got a bit hot because there's nothing else. There's literally nothing else.
It's the initial excitement, isn't it? So we're going back to talking about releasing in November, and people say, right, pre-orders are open, everyone's getting excited because we know that the roadmap's coming, the website's done, everyone's really looking forward to that. We're almost accustomed to it now, aren't we? We know that the roadmap is every week there's another feature announcement, and we're conditioned into that layer of PR exercise.
Yeah.
So we kind of just took it as red side, didn't we? That, okay, game's been announced, pre-orders are available, it's up on Steam, it's up on Fanatics, it's up on Amazon, it's up on all the distribution networks, which, is great. And creators, we have codes, and we share those codes out to try and get people a little bit discount. And, at that point, everything looked fine from the outside. And it's only with a bit of distance and with a bit of hindsight side that people then start to look at nitpicking and attacking specific lines within statements, and this is one of those lines that I think a lot of people have really attacked quite strongly.
Yeah, a lot of people we had criticism because we didn't really mention the pre-orders much back in November, or we just said, but I okay, there's two things here. Like, I say never pre-order. Well, I say never pre-order. Well, we all have pre-order links on our videos, but I like, for me, it's like, don't pre-order until a day before you're going to get it, until you have more details about the game. I don't think we had enough details about this game to the games don't sell out. Games never sell out. There's no reason to pre-order digitally. The reason I would say to pre-order digitally for a game like Football Manager is because it's a little bit cheaper before launch and you get early access, right? Beyond that, like, this far in advance, there's no reason to pre-order. I guess when it was back in November, but they said straight away we're going to refund it. So and people say, oh, well, they took lots of money on it. That would have cost them more than they made, because they would have had to pay out refunds, and they get hit with financial charges on every single one of those, transaction charges and all sorts. And essentially they've got to give everyone back all of their money plus take all the financial transactional hits. So I don't buy that they did it to get the money. I don't know how many people. I mean, it does say large numbers of people pre-ordered, which is interesting. There is something else later on, which sort of made me think, because they said we had the roadmap and the pre-orders went up. And part of me, and this is what makes me think, like, there are these multiple layers of approval. Well, of course there are, because there's, at least within the studio, there's 300 people, and then you got Sega on top, and licensees, and etc., and shareholders, and all sorts of other people involved. And there's something later on about they could have released it, right? Which makes me think, I wonder if they could have released it in November. Would it have been good? No. It would have been buggy, maybe. It would have been not working. Maybe it would have been feature incomplete. But they could have released it and met whatever obligations. They would have pissed a lot of people off with the finished state of it. But they'd be like, okay, we can release it. This is what it sort of says here now. Like, and I think some game studios do that. They'd be like, hey, just get it. We just got to get it out. So to some extent, there's like back in November, they probably reached a point where it's like, hey, are we releasing this in the state we've got it? Is this good enough? Like, is this a fun game? Is this an improvement on FM24? Or is it too buggy? Like, are these bugs we can... Or, at some point there is like a point where it's like... And, they've got to convince Sega or whoever to give them the go-ahead to be like, no, you can delay it till March. And again, they'd have to go through that again. Because... And this is something, we know that there were people the FMFC players who went in January, who played the game. So if people went in January and played the game, there's a game to be played. It's not like it does, it's not a... I mean, I called it Schrodinger's Football Manager until it exists. It doesn't exist. It turns out it doesn't exist now.
I think that was one of the queries that I had on it, because I didn't do play testing at all, and it was open play testing. If you remember of FMFC, then you were able to apply to be part of that. I never put in for any of that, so I can't comment upon what did or didn't happen. And I know people who did go have signed NDAs, and some people are talking and leaking information from those NDAs, clearly because it's found its way onto the internet. The question that I would have, which of course I'm not going to get an answer for, and nobody's going to get an answer for, is were they playing a full, complete version of the game, or were they maybe doing playpen access? You know, like what you get with like software where you can sort of test things in isolation. Now, I don't know whether that would be a thing or not. It's purely speculation, and the video that I put out personally was based along the lines of, because nobody had any information, we were filling all the blanks in ourselves, and that has been again part of the issue with this prolonged cancellation, was the lack of information that was coming through. So we were kind of going, well, could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be a multitude of these things? And because nobody knew, everybody was second guessing, and ultimately, Aaron, it then led to sort of like almost Chinese whispers of like, well, maybe like, well, I don't think this is going to work, and I think this bit's not going to work because I think this, based on sometimes no knowledge, but sometimes probably a smattering or a little smattering of a little bit of logical thought. And those things did just get, the more people say it, the bigger that conversation gets, the louder that conversation gets. And I mean, Aaron, that's where we ended up in a bit of a sort of cyclone effect, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, the conspiracy theories as well.
We'll get onto conspiracy theories in a second.
Because you just sit there and dwell on these things, and obviously we're all on social media as well, and you're just seeing these accounts post certain things, and sometimes you're just calling, no, that's just bullcrap. And then some of these things make you think like, that must have come from somewhere or something. Like, you don't just sit there and think of that. But I did have a thought. Sorry, I want to go back a little bit on the pre-order thing. Sorry, I just had this thought when Sal was talking. Is pre-ordering like for people? Because it is for me sometimes. Like, is it a financial thing, right? Like, not everyone has £50 to spend on the game, so, or they don't feel that every month they're going to have that. So once they have it, it's just their routine sort of thing, their financial routine. Like, they know Football Manager is coming out on a certain day, and you can pre-order it on a certain day. So maybe they just have that money for that time. Like, and then that's it. It's all done, and you just wait. Maybe that's what it is for some people.
Like, the release schedule and the pre-order schedule would have tied in with probably lead up to Christmas, which again we mentioned last time, that some people would have had the game pre-ordered for birthdays or for Christmases. And you're right, like, when games come out, games aren't cheap anymore now. Like, you know, if you look at the recommended retail price of most games, about 50 quid.
Yeah,
like, so if you can get
they're
that,
like 70, 80 now.
But well, how much is FM? FM's around about 50 quid. FM's 45 quid.
FM's about half
cheap.
the price. It hasn't moved with inflation, and that's I mean, and this is sort of where we've got to like think about. You know, a lot of people say a lot of things about leadership's got to change or whatever. Football Manager. I'm like, grass isn't always greener.
Yeah,
like, you know, you could have the guy who was in charge at EA and then Unity who wanted to charge for reloads in Battlefield guns.
Yeah,
like, you know, we could have been stuck with Ultimate Team or any one of these NFT nightmares or any, like, look at any Football Manager competitor on mobile. Like, they're all microtransaction filled nightmares.
That's the thing, innit? Imagine so you have to pay for a real world database when you have to pay for the pre-game editor. That's
it could be coming. It could be coming. And I know Miles has said, you know, he's going to try and avoid that for as long as he can. But eventually, I mean, Miles isn't going to be in charge forever. Like, despite what he thinks, like, you know, it might be his final days, but it goes. But there will be a time eventually when Miles isn't in charge, and whoever does take the mantle might just go, you know what? No, we are going down the microtransaction route. We are getting some more money in, because that's a thing. That's the way the world goes, and we're sheltered for as long as we can be, which is fantastic. And as Si was saying with that statement, saying they could have released in November, I like the fact they didn't. I like the fact that they didn't bring out a bad game or a game that didn't work and try to fix it. Because one of the arguments I've heard, Si, throughout this is I'm hearing from what we call the hardcore fans. The hardcore fans appear to be shouting out and saying, we've played this game for really, really long. This is disrespectful to us. We play the game every single year. And by cancelling it, we're not happy. Now, I had a bit of a think about this earlier on today, and I wonder whether the definition of hardcore fans is correct. Now, are the hardcore fans the fans like myself who've been playing the game since 1992? Is that the hardcore fan? Yeah, or is it the hardcore fans who've been playing for 10 years and see themselves as the hardcore fans because they've played for 10 years? Like, it's a different dynamic, isn't it? I would argue that if you've been playing for 30 years, you're probably more likely to brush this off and go, right, fine, we rolled out Champman 4, we know what's coming, that we've been here before. If you've been a fan for 10 years and you've not seen something like this before, it looks a bit more panicky. And I would argue maybe the people who are going to be panicked the most are the newer fans who've been playing the game for 5 years or less, who go, well, hang on, I've just got into this game and now it doesn't work. Hang on, that's weird. And
well,
they're the ones who have maybe a little
10
bit
years
more
of goodwill either, do they? You've got 15, 20 years of goodwill built up where you're like, hey, they've never let me down so far. You said in your video, right? Football Manager's given you personally. Now this is very much a thing for you to actually for both of you. In fact, they have personally given both of you a lot of opportunities. Aaron went to the FIFA World Cup. You went to, you did your show and the documentary and all those things on the back of Football Manager and Sports Interactive's blessing. So I think for like both of you personally, you've definitely got a goodwill in the bank with Sports Interactive. But I think a lot of regular fans do as well. They've released consistently pretty much every year. Most of the versions of micro improvements. I mean, I think it's hard to improve a yearly release. You see, people say FIFA never changes year on year. Or EAFC, right, never changes year on year. But if you stack EAFC year on year back to back, then it's definitely improved since FIFA 03 or whatever, right? And it's the same for Football Manager. Like, even if you go back to FM15 and you'll be like, but this doesn't even have dark mode. Like, what's going on here, right? What are these fonts? Who uses a font like this anymore? And there is a lot of cherry picking right now. I'm sure you've all seen the and we always complain about it. It's the regen faces, the new gen faces, right? There is the cherry picking of the new gen face. This is what it looked like in FM09. This is what it looked like in 15. This is what it looked like in 2024. And it looks like it's regressed, but it's also like, okay, they've cherry picked like the worst faces from like last year's game and like the best faces from the first game. And also, it skips out the bit where in FM 16 or 17, it switched to the 3D match engine face. So those faces now appear in the match engine. Okay, they look worse on the profile screens, which is a problem. But, it was a different way of doing the faces. And it's like cherry picking the actual improvements to the game.
I think in that situation, maybe I could have reacted and just reverted back to how it was before. Because clearly, like, the visual representation, it meant a lot for people. It can sort of break immersion when you've got this talented guy just come from your youth academy and you look at his faces and he's just got all like dirt patches on his face and it's just like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? That doesn't look like a Santiago Jimenez.
I mean, that's an interesting one because I've always been, and again, to go back and listen to any episodes of the podcast, I've always been down the line of going, that stuff for me, I don't class that as the most important or even of any real relevance until I started making content and using Football Manager as a visual platform. That's when I started to go, well, okay, yeah, right, yeah. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably do want it to look a little bit better. And then, of course, you've got, people making like AI faces and stuff, and then eventually they all just look the same anyway. So, like, that's not really adding anything to it. And I could do with 20 gigs worth of data back. So just delete that, get that gone. And like all of a sudden I'm like, well, I've put this stuff in and it doesn't actually help anything anyway. But I mean, does the regular viewer who's using the game on their laptop desperately want beautiful portrait faces for a player that they're going to sell in like 3 weeks because they're 1 star?
It'd be nice, I mean, but it's low on my list of priorities.
Does it not make you feel worse when you try and sell that player? Going, I'd sell him, but he's quite good looking, actually.
So the problem I have is if you go if you think when they made that switch from the 2D face to the 3D face, if that 3D face was better, you could have a zoom in on it in the match engine. You could see it closer up. But because it looks so bad, you can't zoom in on it. And I think that's part of the problem. Also, there is licensing problems there.
Yeah.
That's a good point,
if you're playing on like a 2001 laptop, you can't do that anyway.
Laptop.
Yeah,
Like you could do a mobile phone. Like mobile phone,
but
even a 5-year-old mobile phone runs it better than a 2001 laptop. I mean, just
we know that, but we know that SI are able to and try their best to get this game to run on as low a spec as possible. So, Aaron, are we actually in a position where SI should probably go, you know what? I hate to say it, we have to cut some of you adrift. Like, in order for this game to go to the next level, some of you aren't coming on this journey with us.
No,
specs out there. The specs are out there. They're not too bad. They're only about...
They're not too bad.
10 years old tech still. It's like tech that came out in 2015.
But even now, though, our Discord keeps going, can anyone recommend a laptop to play this game? Or Twitch is the same thing, can recommend a laptop. Like, no? Like, get whatever's lowest spec in Curry's, it'll work.
I do agree, actually. I do agree. It's a bit like the price, right? Like, the price has gone up, but it hasn't gone up with inflation. And it could be a bit like the specs. Like, the specs could go up, but it doesn't mean you have to have the high spec PC still. Like, like, obviously you can see it now on social media. People post their specs and whatever. Like, it seems like so many people have got high specs, but in reality, that the amount of people that play Football Manager, that might not be the case. Like, the average person that plays Football Manager might just have an average gaming PC. It might not be high spec.
Well, here's the example, right? So, and we'll talk about this again a bit later on the show. I've mentioned I'm doing some work with Jameson, the whiskey company, and stream with Steve Sidwell. We bought a gaming setup. So the agency and Jameson bought a gaming setup for us to use in the Jameson pub. And they asked me to spec it. And I was like, well, I don't really know. And so I said, this is what I've got, right? And my PC's pretty good. And I've had it for 3 years. So you might want to like go the next graphics card up, go the next processor up. I was like, but bear in mind, this is just for Football Manager. If you increase, you are running Civ 7. Like, it's not like you could literally just give me an iPad and it would run Football Manager. So.
Yeah, I mean, the iPad runs Civ 7 as well, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so something I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here that like is about the future of the way tech is going. A lot of people, maybe not today, but in 10 years aren't going to have a PC to play Football Manager because it'll be cloud streamed. You know, you have your 5G device, you plug in a keyboard or a mouse or a controller over Bluetooth, and you can cloud stream it. You don't need that powerful device because that powerful device is a cloud device. You can do it right now. You can play the Xbox version on cloud. You can play the Steam version on the PC version on cloud as well, I think. So yeah, you don't need
VR headset. Aaron, you start getting angry in your VR headset mode.
You pick up your iPad. I mean, that'd be quite good, wouldn't it? You pick up your little
spreadsheet.
iPad.
That is wild.
You can make your arm gestures at the players. That would be kind of good, actually. I want that.
Nah, man, I prefer my PC keyboard monitor.
If you could physically shout at the players, you wouldn't love that, Aaron. If you could be shouting at them into a microphone, be like, "Player," and it picks it up and it does it for you.
Nah, I'll probably get arrested if I start. People walking past the house speaking, what?
Well, Aaron's made a good point there, right? Because as you say there, Si, you're right. The world is moving more device driven, and like, you know, we're not going to be sat at desks with, you know, dual monitors, triple monitors, all that sort of thing, playing Football Manager on a PC. It is going to be more handheld devices or console. Dare I say it will be console. Some of you are going to have to just accept it's going to be console moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be a console, but if you want to use keyboard and mouse, you can plug in your keyboard and mouse. You can plug in a keyboard and mouse to a PlayStation. Did you know you can play Football Manager on your PlayStation or your Xbox with a keyboard and mouse?
That was going to be my point, is because it doesn't matter how you play this game, we want the keyboard and mouse, and that's the thing. So as long as you plug that into your consoles, you're not missing anything.
Nah, I want my system, right? Like, this is gonna sound so weird. Like, this sounds a little bit nerdy. Like, I think I need something like a system, something there running that is holding all this data. Like like an Xbox, like an Xbox version won't satisfy me. Like an Xbox version of Football Manager just will not satisfy me. I need the full back wham, the whole shebang of Football Manager.
Yeah,
I
but
need
the
to be
point
able
of
to
the
pick
cloud
35
version-
nations if I want to.
Yeah, but that's the point of the cloud version, because the cloud PCs are X infinite powerful. They're not infinite powerful, but they're like basically top of the line. You know, if you log into the cloud now on an X, like even the Xbox ones or whatever, you'll get like a top of the line graphics card running the game, which is better than what you've got in your PC. You get a top of the line processor
Hey,
running
don't
the
talk about
game,
my
which is
PC
better
like
than you're
that.
running in the PC. I don't know what Dynamo's Agra paid you. You know, that's it. Well, we heard you're a scout for them this week, so yeah.
Have we got?
So,
have we got the little-
with this cloud thing, I don't know exactly how it works. So where's it running from? It's got to run from somewhere.
Yeah, they're PCs, but they're like server PCs in a server basement somewhere, running on like the most expensive tech, latest tech. That's essentially it. You know, it'll be Microsoft or Amazon who buy up all these PC parts. That's why companies like Nvidia, the share price is through the roof, mainly for the AI at the minute. There's lots of, you know, and before it was the cryptocurrency miners, you know, running their graphics cards for cryptocurrency. We'll get enough topic.
I'm gonna say, look what look what this cancellation's done to us.
Yeah.
We're going to speculate on
The
the
worst thing
future
is
of
we're only on
gaming.
paragraph 2 of the,
I
of the
know
statement.
what I swear to you. I saw this page about 10 minutes ago. I was like, oh my god, we're only on the third paragraph.
Feel like we're going to be jumping around a little bit, to be honest. 'Cause
Yeah.
we did some bits later on, didn't we? So we
Yeah,
don't have
we
to do
did,
all
yeah,
of the
yeah.
statement.
Okay, I mean, it says about the shareholder compliance. We've covered that. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
The date release
Yeah.
dates. Is the release date moved twice? Yeah, because they did
Yeah,
a
because
short one in November.
there was a
didn't
3-week delay in November, wasn't there? And then
Yeah.
there was March. They've obviously said there as well. They've always prided themselves in delivering the best value for money game, which again we've discussed that as well.
They do.
You know, we talk about 45 quid RRP for FM. Most of us would clock in at 1,000 hours, and I think even if you're only just skimming the game, you're clocking 250 hours
Yeah.
on a game. Which, when you compare it to some expensive titles on Xbox and PlayStation that maybe are 80 quid or something, and the gameplay,
Well,
the story mode is 20 hours. Like,
Civilization
you know.
came out this week.
Yeah.
Being slated because it's got a lot of problems. It's got a mixed average review on Steam. Consumers hate it.
Yeah.
60 quid for the base version, or
Yeah.
if you want to play it early, 90 quid, or if you want the Founders Edition, 120 quid. I think that's like a comparable, hours to game, level of
Yeah.
complexity, strategy game. Maybe Civ's more popular, but it's it's a big game. 60 quid just for the base game.
Okay. Shall we get to the interesting bit then? Because you're talking here about
So
Civ
interesting.
coming out. Whilst many areas of the game have hit our targets, the overarching player experience and interface is not where we need it to be. As extensive evaluation has demonstrated, including consumer playtesting, we have clear validation for the new direction of the game and are getting close. However, we're too far away from the standards you deserve. There's a lot being said in that paragraph, Aaron.
Yeah. I'm trying to sink it all in again.
Aaron,
It's coming back to me.
Right, Side, do you want to
yeah,
take while
I
Aaron...
Yeah, sure. The first bit is like, and this is something we go back, me and Aaron had a conversation about this the other day. We were saying, were people right in November to say it was going to be cancelled?
Oh, yes.
I don't know.
Gloves
Because, yeah, but no, I don't like. They've said there based on consumer feedback, which is assume that whatever they did in January when they had in December or whenever it was when they had people in right from FMFC. So at that point, I assume they thought, well, let's just test it with consumers, see if they like the game. If they like it, we'll push it out. But obviously the feedback, maybe the feedback's like it's not good enough or whatever it is, or this needs to change. The other thing there is like, and a lot of people are saying back in November, well, it's because the engine's not going to be ready. It's Unity. The engine's not going to be ready in Unity, the gameplay engine. Well, according to that, it's not the gameplay engine. It says the interface, which is a different part. That's the UI, right? And the other bits around that. So for all we know, and it does say bits of the game are finished. So that, and this is something we all said it back in November, is like, it only takes one little bit to not be working for the whole house of cards to fall down, right? Like 99, the data, and I said this in my video, the data is going to be done. The data lock probably happened twice now. It probably happened back in the summer, and again probably for the January window, right? All the researchers have put all this data in, including all the research for the women's game. Anyone's still blaming the women's game. I mean, it's not that if the only bit that would have been different for the women's game is the match engine. And the match engine is the bit that specifically there is not mentioned as being problematic. It's the interface. The women's game is, I doubt, any different in the interface. I imagine the women's game functions the same as the men in terms of interface. It might not, but, I don't imagine why they would change the interface for the women's game. So, the women's game has got nothing to do with it. It's like definitely a UI thing and a Unity thing. There is that video back in, I think it's in November. I think it's about the same time, right? From the Unity Dev Days, where they were talking about the challenges of converting stuff over for the UI. And I think, probably you go back and watch that, you might get an idea of some of the challenges they faced.
And again,
that's
as
it
well,
though, isn't it? Right? Like, sorry to cut you off, but people just, I think when people are upset and frustrated, anything can just come out. So even when people are saying match engine, blah, 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 they're still probably blaming Unity, and still the interface, like the issue, it could be that switch. Well, they've mentioned it in that video that I watched as well. And that's what I'm saying, like these things I felt could have just built doubt in people's mind from early. And then as months go by, and then after each post, you're just getting even a more sinking feeling like this game is just got to be cancelled. Like, I wouldn't say people are right. Like, I wouldn't use the term right. If you said early that this game probably won't come out, if you said that, I wouldn't say you're right. But it's still a prediction, and then
I mean, they're right in the end, aren't they? But
it's still a prediction, and I think
I don't know if the prediction was necessarily based on solid facts at the time. That's where I would go.
Like for me, I do think like I don't know. People in the comments can disagree or agree, but I just think like you openly said it, like saying that. I respect that dev video, by the way. Anyway, but I think saying that you're having issues, that is enough to put some doubt in your mind about the game coming out.
Yeah.
I think with this,
because
as
this
well,
is like everyone like. I think after a while, people realize how much of a big deal it is to move to a different engine. So then, when you're having that, and people assume as well, the game's supposed to be ready long time. Like before it's released, the game should be in a state that is ready anyway, months ahead. So if there's like word that they're having issues, then again, like you're thinking, how long have they got to actually fix all of this? Because they are creating a whole new game. And you said you was creating this game. Sorry, you said you're creating this game 2 years ago as well. Like we got this announced in 2023. So in probably earlier. Sorry, it would have been 2024, right? Or 22. Sorry,
23. We got it.
Was that the first official announcement?
Yeah. 23. They said 24 and 25. They gave us both at once.
Yeah, but again, you've got this thing as well, though, about yes, okay, there might have been a problem with the engine, and of course, let's use the term "the engine" to mean Unity. It has been misconstrued as the match engine by some people, but the engine, the physical engine itself of the game. It's also worth considering this is the first time that Sports Interactive and Unity have worked together, so you don't necessarily want to be airing dirty laundry in public when there's no long-term relationship again to build behind, because if there is a concern, Unity don't want Sports Interactive saying, well, this doesn't work, it's Unity's fault, and Unity don't want to say, well, it works perfectly fine, it's Football Manager's fault. And you don't want to create any division there, because ultimately, again, as we said, maybe it might be both parties are trying to cram stuff into square pegs and round holes. Like, can we get this thing to work? Yeah, probably. And then trying to get it done and going, oh, actually, it doesn't quite work as we thought. And if we're talking about the UI, we're talking about this tiles and cards system, which has been sort of mentioned, which, again, maybe works great, like, in isolation, but does it work great 30, 40 years into the future in the game? It could be something like that breaks the game down the line that we don't know. That you can say, right, let's get the game out right now. But yeah, if you're in a long-term save, you aren't in a long-term save because the game breaks. And that's not a good place to be when they know people love long-term saves.
I mean, you hit on something there. I'm going to air some dirty laundry, but it's not really... I mean, I don't have inside information. But Unity did actually fuck stuff about. We're an hour in, I can swear now, right? 45 minutes is right. Unity did fuck stuff about 2 months after Sports Interactive said they were using Unity, which means they've already been working with it.
Sorry, yes. So you just remember. I'm so sorry, people. There was also that as well. There was those videos, and you could be a part of it, of putting doubt in people's mind because of obviously the Unity situation as well. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. Well, I was going to say, I know nothing about the gaming industry, so like seeing something about Unity, like automatically I'm like, like they've just moved to this engine, and then like now we're just seeing nothing but bad news about it.
Yeah, loads of devs moved off of Unity. Well, basically what happened was Unity changed their pricing model without like informing anyone anything in mid-development. And Unity is used by a lot of independent developers.
Yeah.
Sports Interactive isn't independent. Sports Interactive is a large studio. But it meant that the Unity was going to cost a different amount. They were going to take a larger chunk or a different chunk of people's revenue. And a lot of devs just said, well, forget it. We're going. It's that guy, John Riccitello, who used to be the EA guy who wanted to charge for bullets. So yeah, he fucked it at Unity. They got rid of him in the end, but they also cancelled a whole load of tech. So they had Ziva, I think it was called, like some face generation AI, like that would have made photorealistic faces. Hey, that would have been pretty good, right? Probably not anymore because that's cancelled. They also laid off loads of devs from Unity. Loads of projects were shut down at Unity. So a big studio like Sports Interactive or Sega, who would have been working with Unity on developing like the flagship features, I'm sure. But and now half the Unity team is getting sacked. They're having layoffs. And it's like, because they bungled this, loads of indie devs said, I'm just going to, even though it's going to delay me 8 months, I'm going to switch my game from Unity to Godot, because Godot's open source. It's like another game engine, right? There are other games. And a game engine like Godot is like, or Godot, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's quite good for a small indie developer. It doesn't really scale to a developer the size of Sports Interactive, who need a lot of support, who need to work with a large partner like Unity or Unreal. Unreal is the other alternative, although Unreal is very much graphical based, which sort of makes sense. Maybe a little bit why they went for the UI side with Unity rather than the graphical side with Unreal. Unreal is like very polished, shiny looking graphics, which is very nice. But, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to a data-driven game like Football Manager. So, and they're 2 months into development. They can't just be like, we're going to switch engine again now. Like we'd have been delayed even, like we'd have never seen FM28 at that rate. So it's... it's complete speculation on my part, but that must have done something to it. You have to imagine the Unity mess up, at least at a minimum, is like, we're not getting new features, we're not getting updates to Unity in the way that we expected.
I know nothing about the gaming. I literally know nothing about that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's difficult for me to comment on that.
Okay, well let's look at positives then. Potential positives. Let's try and put a spin on it. Right, okay, spin. It's not the last ever Football Manager. That's the main positive, right? Sega haven't just binned SI off and went, right, no more Football Manager, thank you very much.
Yay.
Right. At time of recording. Okay, so let's caveat.
I mean, the games industry is very volatile right now. Like whole studios are getting binned. So let's hope not.
The statement continues to talk about the next release. Now, very clever. Doesn't say FM26. We can hope that it is FM26. If it's FM27, it's FM27. Okay, but let's presume it's going to be FM26.
FM Live 2, baby.
Hey, there you go. What we could get is potentially all the bits and pieces that weren't in FM25 coming back in. So you would think they're going to take whatever they've got right now and just build that and make that work rather than scrapping it all again and starting, because they don't have time to do that. So resource, we presume, is taken off FM25, all hands on deck onto FM new version, and therefore, Aaron, potentially the return of international management, draft mode, whatever else was taken out, the data, the chalkboard is going to come back. And that's pretty much it. And it really, I'm not even going to mention weight. I'm not mentioning weight. That's not coming back.
Well, people wanted weight, and they've got to wait now, haven't they? They've got to wait 8 months.
Oh my god!
You know what? I hate the term so-called comedian on Twitter, but Si, I think you deserve that.
But yeah, with international football, it
queue up
has to
to
come
work
back,
with it.
right? Like I was thinking earlier, like just basically just give us FM25, but very polished as FM26, basically. But now I'm thinking, wait, the big international tournament in 2026, like international football, has to come back surely for FM26, if that's
USA
what it's
World
going to
Cup.
be called, because obviously there's no actual official title there, but surely international football is back. What I was worried about though is the Premier League licensing. Like I was so excited for that, Now I'm a bit like, is there a possibility that's not gonna come in FM26?
Aaron, you'll just pack it anyway. You'll just, install your logo, pack it.
Yeah, but it's not the same. It doesn't hit the same, innit? Like the advertisement of Football Manager. Like
You
I can
get that
show my
nice
friends, I can show my other
Champions
friends,
League,
like
don't
this
you?
is official.
I mean, you're right. All those conversations are going to have to be redone now and go and speak to the licensees or the licensors, I believe the correct term isn't licensors. That you've got to go and discuss with them again and say, right, look, we had this in agreement previously.
Yeah.
Let's start discussing next year. Where do we go? And see what happens. We'll probably... I mean, we didn't know whether we're getting any new leagues or not this year in the game.
Lithuanian League. That's what I heard on Twitter.
Allegedly,
Lithuanian
yeah,
League.
that was allegedly big. But then again,
And it was coming out in April with the Lithuanian League.
But also, though, there was an account that was saying that this is definitely going to be cancelled. I've heard from a mate of a mate of a mate who knew back in the day. And the following day went, it's not cancelled, it's definitely coming. And then the day later went, yeah, so's cancelled, yeah. So a lot of people don't know anything online, really.
That was funny.
I don't imagine even people in the studio know. At some point, the decision.
not everyone.
I'd imagine there was a point, and this is where we get into. It looks like if you can read into this, there's a point where you're looking and you're going, yeah. If you're a worker, not Miles. Miles knows. Miles, or whoever is sent to Sega. Sorry, I keep picking on. Well, I'm not picking on Miles. People pick on Miles more than what I'm saying. I don't think they should. But anyway, that's another topic. Miles says to Sega, "Hey, we need to delay it." He has to wait for approval. And he doesn't tell any. He can't. I mean, he could maybe hint like, "Hey, we got to wait and see what happens. Keep working on what you're working on." Maybe people in the studio don't even know until 24 hours before we know. It's potential. I don't even know how deep the shareholder thing goes. Like, what are employees allowed to know?
Goes back to what we said right at the start, isn't it? No one knew. And even now, I think that there'll be people within organisation that don't know the exact ins and outs. So we definitely don't know the exact ins and outs. So all we're doing is speculating and trying to continue the conversation and move it on because, there has been a lot of chat over the last few days about this because it is massive news in the FM community and, even in the wider gaming community, really. So we obviously have to talk about it.
I got invited to a radio station about it.
You were on the radio.
That's a point, yeah.
I think a couple of YouTubers did, didn't they? Different radio stations. I think Work the Space was on one as well.
Yeah. LBC out of all of them.
LBC. Nigel Farage interviewed you, didn't he?
It was so crazy. I was like, is this actually real? I had to search, because I'm on LinkedIn, I'm like, straight away, I'm like, is this person real? Yeah, type the name in, LinkedIn. I would go straight to LinkedIn to make sure they're real.
I mean, we've all become LinkedIn experts this last week. When we were all looking for a little bit of news, we were like, "Ooh, is anyone dropping anything who works at Sports Interactive?" I mean, there was that job posting that came up, and we were like, "What? What this lead designer role?" Everyone was speculating about lead designer role.
Oh,
right?
so what? So could that be linked now?
Well, no, because the thing is, right, because when that came out, right, that came out, didn't it? And loads of people were like, oh my God, there's a lead game designer. Like, a few people looked at it and went, well, hang on, is it an additional, maybe, rather than just the main one? Because It could be that they're bringing more in for FM26 and it's just really bad timing. Or, of course, you know, if you're a designer, you might be working on a fixed-term contract. You might be ready to go and work on your next project. So it could just be, again, coincidence. But because nobody had any information, the FM community turned into private investigator mode between, like, the 31st of January to, the 6th of February. My word, honestly, there was some messages. Even I was getting messages going, "Have you seen this?" I'm not looking at anything. I'm just not. Like, I can't be drawn into
300
this.
staff. Like, you'd hope at some level there is a level of turnover at the company, right? Like, when you've got so many staff, at any one point they're going to at least be hiring 1 or 2 people. And at this point, like at this stage in the cycle, imagining they were targeting a March release, whether they hit it or not, even if they're targeting a November one, like, it's very late game to be changing. I don't think like some people are like, oh, they sacked the lead designer, it's so bad. I don't think that's like where we're at right now. You know, I don't think that's what's going on. I mean, maybe, but I very much doubt it. You know, and I wouldn't care to speculate on someone's job like that.
People were looking for answers, and because nothing was said once that January 31st deadline went past, people went rogue to try and find
I was one of them. But I'm just not
anything.
one of those guys that are going to do that research and then try and use my platform to then push out these narratives. Like, I literally try to do my research and then run and tell you guys that's literally what it is. And yeah, I was one of those guys. I was on LinkedIn. I was typing in SI lead, literally typing the exact same role, seeing if there's multiple or if it's just one, trying to work it out myself. That I just went into some detective mode, but at the same time, like, that sort of thing is like, it's not serious. It's part of fun and games, like, which is they're speculating. Like, it's just all fun and games. It's not really serious.
I think what it did do, though, is it highlighted, and this is something I did put out in my video, Si, it highlights just how much people care about this game.
It is,
doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a, oh yeah, we play it because there's nothing else. People, and we're an hour in, by the way, so we're definitely monetized. People fucking love Football Manager, don't they? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, honestly,
it's a compliment.
They will do anything for this game, and that level of like consumer investment and consumer engagement, that is priceless.
Maybe that's the Arsenal fan in me. Like, obviously, we mentioned before our Arsenal fans track flights and that sort of thing. Maybe that's just the Arsenal fan in me to go in detective mode, but.
Do you know, Aaron, like I was saying, you know, it's not worth getting angry over and stuff like that. Maybe that's the Portsmouth fan on me who's been absolutely shit on all the way down to the second tier of football.
But there is a line, though, isn't it? There's like I said, like, it's all fun and games me doing detective work, but them trying to push that on. Like, I think there's a line sort of thing, and I think many people sort of cross it.
The line.
I mean, we've had people cross it.
So the line is some of the abuse that was sent towards the company. That's the line. Like, you got to remember, and I know we've got quite an articulate listenership who I'm sure weren't doing this, but you've got to remember that at the end of the day, there's people attached to this, right? You know, Sports Interactive is not a faceless company. We know the people that work at Sports Interactive, granted not every single one of them, but we know a lot of them personally. We know they're good people. We know they're trying their best. We know, as you said at the start of the show, Si, and you said as well, Aaron, these people are hurting more than any of us are that the game hasn't come out, because they know how hard they've worked to get it to the situation they are. They play the game in their spare time as well. It's not like this is their job and that's it. They are Football Manager fans also. They were looking forward to playing FM25 in their downtime, because believe it or not, that's what they do. They work on Football Manager all day and they go home and play Football Manager because they're one of us, right? So some of the abuse that will be thrown out online, you know, do just sort of like take a bit of a moment to look at it and go, it's not nice, you know.
You know,
a lot of people look at this from like they forget that they're only consumers, right? Then there's more than just consumers in this. There are staff, there are stakeholders and shareholders. You know, so I'll give an example, and I don't want to pick on Miles because, you know, I think it's wrong. But, like, you know, some people were saying about, Miles, he's awful at PR, like this. Miles, like, he's been in charge of a studio that's gone from 500,000 players or less with lots of competitors to a monopoly with 10 million players. You know, he's like, you know, maybe and I don't think many people will disagree. Like, he's not always the best at PR, but that is not the only point of his job, right? There are many aspects to his job, including staffing and overseeing the studio and all sorts of other things. Managing with Sega, managing with the license holders. Meeting all kinds of people. And they do a whole host of charity and good causes and stuff. They do War Child. I think they've done some stuff with, it wasn't her game too, but a couple of the women's game ones this year. Like they hold lots of events and stuff for young footballers and stuff. Like they do a lot of stuff that doesn't make a difference to you when you think you want to buy Football Manager in November. And like Miles's tweets, like. What Miles does is more than his tweets, right? So I don't want to sound like I'm glazing Miles, which I probably do right now. But it's like we said earlier, the grass isn't always greener, right? This is someone who doesn't want to put, well, as far as we know, doesn't want to put microtransactions in the game. This is someone who wants to support good causes around the game, so they give some money every year to War Child. We've all visited the studio at Sports Interactive. We're allowed to say that. We visited it a few years ago. I think the last 2 years. And, that is a fantastic, like, I would love to work there. That is like really cool. Like, they've got a nice environment, lots of social activities, lots of events for the staff and stuff. Like I think there's a lot of support for the staff and things like that. These are all things that for a consumer, like maybe you don't think about, but in the game development industry, where you've got other companies and there's like, you just go look at what's happening at Blizzard or Ubisoft or there's some really atrocious stuff that's been happening in the gaming industry. It's kind of refreshing in a way that, like, the problem with this is that it just is delayed. I don't know, but maybe people don't care. Maybe people don't have the ethics or the worry about that kind of thing.
I think it's I don't know if it's the ethics, but I think it's some people don't think to that intention, do they? They just think, and it's even been said before, I think even maybe some of our correspondents previously were saying, look, if I'm being really honest, this is a selfish thing from me that I just want a new game because I am bored of the game I'm playing. So at that point, and again, so at that point, and I'm not saying this is incorrect, at that point, if that is your stance, then you don't really care about any of the other stuff because you've already made it a personal decision and justified it as a personal decision that you are allowed to be selfish in that moment, that this is something that you want, and that's sort of fine, I think, really. And I've sort of flip-flopped on that a few times, Aaron. I know you've been really staunchly on it yourself, going, no, I get it. This is how much FM means to me. If I want it, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to be upset if it's not there. Whereas I've kind of been like, yeah, but there's bigger problems in the world. And you've been very much a case of, no. This is my biggest problem that I'm ever going to have right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's many people like me, but
there's a lot.
I don't know what's happening outside of this house. Like, I don't know what's happening in America. All these elections, and I only knew it was Super Bowl because of the Kendrick Lamar stuff. Like, there's so much things. I don't actually know what's going on in the outside world. My life is pretty much wake up, I've got the kids. If I've got content to create, I'm playing Football Manager all day. Or I'm a father. The kids are homeschooled, so I'm doing that. Like, my days are like, and then I'm on X. Like, X is the only time I see some sort of outside world sort of thing. Obviously, I go outside, but again, when you go outside, I'm going to like baby classes. I'm taking my kid to martial arts and that sort of thing. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, if I left this house, I wouldn't know if there's a diversion or if there's traffic. I would meet that when I get there. Like, I don't know what's happening. So for me, that's why Football Manager is so big, because it's like, it's just one of those things that's music, family, Football Manager. And I don't care, like I've said in my video, I don't care how sad that sounds, but that's the reality of my life, and it's possibly the reality of other people's life. Mm-hmm. Everyone's different. So, like, I get why people say it's just a game. My only thing is, if someone's explaining to you that it's not just a game, it is a bit frustrating when your response back is, no, it is just a game, though. Like, because clearly, for some people, it's really not.
I think it's
it's
about
like-
how you. Sorry, Tony. I think it's about how you can be emotional and you can be attached to it, but it's how you manifest that. You know, how are you reacting to that? And I think if you're getting angry and like abusing people, you can get in the sea, right?
Oh,
Like,
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
But it's also
You
a
know,
passion, right?
You can be passionate about it. You can be
And it's-
upset. You can be
and it's escapism.
annoyed. But I think
It
you
could be
can't, like,
escapism as well, you know. Like,
But I
if
think the
things
difference is,
are-
right, you're behind a computer. Like, you're not, like us, I can get my point across now, or I can speak to you now because we're talking face to face, whatever. So the tone and everything, I can get the correct tone out to you. Whereas if you're behind a keyboard, like, anyone that disagrees with you, you think like their tone is bad as well. Even when they're disagreeing politely, it's like, wait, is he being sarcastic? Is he like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I think people just get so wound up because you're behind a computer screen. You're not in front of people's faces. Like, so many people say so many negative things online they will not say to that person in their face. And that's just the reality of it. I think a lot of it is just online talk, keyboard fighting, keyboard warriors.
keyboard warriors.
Yeah, and you know, given the online space is sort of where we live, really, in a sense. You know, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Patreon, of course. There's a little link as well for that. You know, we stream on Twitch. We do unfortunately have to use things like X for work, which, you know, is a bit of a bin fire, let's be honest. And then, you know, Blue Sky, we're trying to get something going on there. TikTok, like, it's worth remembering that although we use that a lot and we feel as though we're interacting with a lot of people on these platforms, Football Manager has a player base of what, 12 to 15 million possibly around the world. The biggest YouTuber has what, a couple 100,000 subs. There's a lot of people are not engaging with any of this. So we are a very, very small microcosm and a very small microscopic echo chamber of Football Manager conversation. So sometimes when we get involved in those spats and those sort of like opposing views and arguments, and I said in one of my videos, I was exhausted with it all. And I was like, when I listened back to it, I was like, yeah, I get it. But then my logical part of my brain went, what you mean is you've seen about 15 people tweet about it, or like 5 people have asked on a stream about it. Whereas like you've got like 100 people there and 5 people have asked, what do you think about FM25? And I'm like, I don't care anymore now. Like that is where those are the levels. So in the grand scheme of things, none of this is really a focus in the vast majority of Football Manager players' lives.
It's difficult to gauge, right? It's like, because I was going to say as well, like, as well with like a lot of the conspiracy theories and the rumors, like, again, I missed a lot of that because by then I was doing a lot of scouting. Like, if you follow me on X, you would have seen me post like, I'm posting like 2 reports a day and that sort of thing. Like, I'm watching at the moment for the past few months an unhealthy amount of football. And I'm watching Gambia, a Gambian league on one screen. And on this screen is Bosnian football. Like, I'm just trying to find the next star. I'm writing about them. I'm trying to perfect my craft, basically. So, again, it's one of those things that I can just shut off. And I remember going on X one day, I was like, oh my, the FM25 newsfeed. And one day I just went through it and I was just thinking, this is absolutely mental. But then in the scouting world, so I'm in this group chat, right? And it's just like, I don't even know. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say how many people are in it or whatever. But I'm in this group chat and it's, a lot of these people that are now scouts at clubs lived similar lives where Football Manager was pretty much the only thing they done. Mm-hmm. And that obviously led them into scouting and that's how they got into that sort of world as well in the real life. So, and even then it's like, by then they're now professional scouts, right? They're not going to get wound up over this, but even they're asking the question like, do you know anything about it and whatnot? And it's just like, see, this is what it does mean something to people. If people are living their lives, even if they can't play the game for hours and hours and hours, they still got that part of them that feels like, I probably should have this game this year. And people just want the game every single year and for them, and it's just their thing, innit? It's their escape a lot of the time.
Yeah. I got some WhatsApp messages from comedians going, "What's happening?" I was like,
you get the random message.
It's like you might know. I'm like, I know nothing. Like, I know nothing.
But that's the thing, right? But you get that random message like, "What's up?" And then that's it. There's no my days, man. This company's taking a PP out of me. I pre-ordered it, and this is what they're doing to me. They're like, fair play. You don't know nothing. And then we
My
won for the
father-in-law
day.
messaged me. He doesn't even play the game. He was like, Football Manager's cancelled. And I was like, yeah, where did you hear about that? Because he knows that's what I do. I think I've shown it to him before. It's the kind of game I think he'd be, like, it's weird because I think he'd be into it, but, like, you know, he's just that generation beyond it. But yeah, he's like, it's cancelled. What's going on there? But he just didn't have I said, it'll be, you know, there'll be a 26. It'll be out later this year. Possibly. You know, but he's like, you know, I've just cursed us now, haven't I?
Can I jump in then before we start discussing the possibility of FM26, right, and or whatever comes next? Can we talk about the fact that there is, and that I am actually doing something that's not FM25 related? I'm aware that we've been like an hour and a bit on the show. I kind of feel I want to get it in just before the end of the episode, because we've mentioned obviously this sponsored stream that we've been doing with Jameson whiskey to try and take Newport out of League Two. Jameson do sponsor Newport County, and there's a player at the club called Kyle Jameson, and my surname's Tony Jameson. Well, my full name's Tony Jameson. My surname, of course, is Jameson. So that makes really good sort of idea for us to work together. We've got former professional footballer Steve Sidwell with us. We do a live stream on a Wednesday from a Jameson pub in London, which has been great, by the way, getting to show a professional footballer. And Aaron, you probably had this with the World Cup, like to show a professional footballer how Football Manager works. Their eyes light up like a child who sees the game for the first time, because I guess we're kind of like, we presume that people we meet in our day-to-day lives, one of those early conversations you can have is, what sort of things do you like doing? I play Football Manager still. I used to play that when I was younger. Or, I've not played Football Manager for years. Like they have a reference point to go for, right? Professional footballers, on the whole, don't have that. Steve was looking at it going like, I don't understand how much stuff there is here. He has said, though, by the way, that he knows loads of players who play on the bus and the coach home, so we might see if we can make some calls and get some people to chat about it. But do you know what's really fun? He is loving it. He is buying into the world of Football Manager, so we might have recruited Steve Sidwell as part of the FM community going forward.
He's going to make an appearance on that. We've got to convince him on the pod, Tony, now. I'm putting
100%. We've got to try and get him on the podcast. But I think his appearance fee is quite high, so we'll just have to try and negotiate that. Take that one down. We'll offer him a bonus if we get promoted to another podcast platform.
A bottle of Jameson's.
But yeah, no, it's great, man. We're doing some fun things. So so they're in person, which is fantastic. Doing the streams we've done. We had one with Lelujo last week as well, so Kev jumped on and co-streamed, and I don't know if you boys have done co-stream before, but that's fun. That's a lot of fun. So we did that, and then this week, so recording time, I've got Zealand coming on tomorrow, and I've got Zealand coming on tomorrow, Steve in person on Wednesday, Clates on Thursday, and then Steve, what we're dubbing as a promotion party. But I am conscious that we have slipped out of the playoffs already at this point in time, and we don't necessarily have. Well, we've got some games to claw it back, but it's going to have to be a Zealand saving saves tomorrow, I think.
Ooh, pressure's on Zealand now, then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But it's a lot of fun. We're going to be editing some highlights. We've edited highlights from the YouTube stream, so they're going to go up on the YouTube channel. So keep your eyes peeled on socials for any of that. And
do you have to have a shot of Jameson's every goal goes in?
Yeah, I've had 2.
That would be a way to get drunk quick.
We'll start. Of course. Do please drink responsibly. We've put the save file in the Discord, so if you do want to come and join us and play Newport County, you're more than welcome to do so. Because everyone's got a lot of time to kill now for a bit.
You sold Carl Jameson.
No, haven't sold him. No, he's still on the team.
Do you have to keep him? Is that part of the stipulation?
I don't think we've been told we have to keep him. I don't think we've been told. We celebrated a lot when he scored a goal. He scored a last-minute winner. Me and Steve were delighted. That was a wonderful moment, that.
Any chance he shows up? Any chance we get him on?
Well,
Actually, I'm going to ask. Here we go. Audience engagement time. Comment time. Comment on the Discord if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes. Comment down in the description. Underneath the description if you're listening on YouTube. If we had any footballer on the show, what footballer would you like us to get? Don't just say Messi. Come on, he doesn't speak.
They're going to say
English,
Antoine Griezmann.
Think about it. Think about it. You can say Antoine Griezmann if you like. First person to say Antoine Griezmann. Everyone liked that one, and then we'll get to the rest of the footballers after that. If you want to say Leroy Lita after that, go Leroy Lita. You know, whoever you like.
Yeah, I think we could do that. We need to try and get some people in.
Leroy Lita and Dave Kitson. Come on. I have to get Steve to hook this up, please, man. We have to. That was my dream partnership on FM.
Leroy Lita was a goal-scoring machine, wasn't he?
Ridiculous.
And Nicky Shorey at left wing-back as well was incredible.
That little Reading. Were they all at Reading?
Yeah.
Reading,
Wow.
yeah. Was Sidwell there? At
Yeah.
the same
The
time?
Ginger
I don't know if it's
Iniesta
at the
was
same
there as well.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's at the same time, but yeah.
So we'll put some bits and pieces out online for that. We'll do a roundup of that next week, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully we can get Steve on to talk about how he's enjoyed it and what he now thinks of FM and whether he'll play it, because he says his sons play it and he's seen other players play it. So hopefully we've managed to convince him as well to be part of our
Might start streaming.
community. Maybe. You never know.
Steal all
We'll
our
have to wait and
viewers. Not
see.
that I've got
Yeah, I
anything
tried to
start
get
with.
I tried to get
Steve
Fabrice
streams well.
Mwamba to stream Football Manager. He was streaming like FIFA
Mwamba did. He
Yeah, this is
raided
about-
me once on Twitch.
2 years ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
He just
I don't know if he
randomly
did
started
Football
streaming,
Manager.
and it was like, oh. And it was
Yeah, I
nice
got-
because it was like literally his first few days, so you can catch him in the chat. Like he's gonna respond to you because there's not many people in the chat.
I think he raided me almost like a day or two after the Ericsson thing happened.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, which obviously also happened to him.
Yeah.
Similar. And then, Romano also raided me at some point. Good old Fab.
Well, speaking of things to do, in the meantime, we've been asked on X. I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it Twitter still. Asked on Twitter.
Give it to you.
Have we got a community challenge on the go just yet? Well, we haven't got one right now, have we? I don't think we've got one right now, but
we haven't got
we're
anything
certainly
set up,
thinking
but
of some
it's in the
stuff that
works.
we're going to do collectively going forward. So myself, Si and Aaron are putting our heads together to work out what we can do that's interesting and fun and can fill the void. And Si, if people want to hear where those plans might take place, where could they potentially tune in and listen to all that?
YouTube.com/ I don't know what our YouTube URL is.
Patreon.
No, well, they don't listen to those on Patreon. Well, they can listen on Patreon. They get early access on Patreon from as little as £3 per month. You can also get some free trials and discounts and all sorts if you sign up to a mailing list. Patreon.com/ the FM Show Pod. You can email us at the FM Show Pod at gmail.com. You can follow us on X. Unfortunately, you can follow us on Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky now.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. You can't follow us on Facebook just yet. No. Okay. Instagram. Threads. You can follow us on Threads, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just need to remember to tweet on Threads. To thread on Threads? I don't know what you call it.
I don't know. I think we post on Threads.
Yeah.
But
And Blue
yeah,
Sky.
we can do all that. And obviously there's the Discord link as well. So come and join us. Come and discuss to your heart's content, Aaron. Isn't that right? Come and join us and hang out a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think we've covered most of what we need to cover.
I got one little question.
Yeah, I got that's one little thing that's just poking out at me. But yeah, you guys.
Well, Aaron's might be different to mine, and it is going back to this statement. And the question is, and something I think one of the big criticisms of them is, and obviously we know the shareholder meeting and stuff, but they said about being transparent and stuff like that.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It is the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So
yeah.
I guess my question is to you is like, what would we like to see? If anyone from Sports Interactive is listening, here we go, a little bit of constructive criticism. What would we like to see between now and let's assume November when FM26 comes out? Would we like to see match it? I think now's a chance. They got to reset with the community. I think they got to show stuff earlier, and if stuff's nearly done, like show it. Just say, hey, this could change. right?
That's
Hey,
the
doesn't
thing.
this look cool? It might
'Cause
change.
They said whilst we've in many areas in the game we've hit our targets, there's a possibility maybe they can show us those parts of the game. But one thing I didn't like is like, again, it's like they haven't exactly promised we will be transparent, blah 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 blah. But it's almost that thing again, like we will update you, and like straight away people are gonna think like, okay, something's coming soon-ish. Like obviously it's not in the next week or so, but we're getting this feeling again, like okay, you're saying that you're gonna give us news, but how long now are we gonna wait for this news? Because the last times you keep saying that you're gonna be more transparent, everything's always been very last minute. This time it actually went past the deadline. And obviously we know some stuff is out of your control. So if things can be out of your control, maybe don't give that idea to people that you're going to be more open and you're going to say something again. Because if something happens again where it's out of your control, then again it feels like you've sort of.
But is it
not lived up to your
down
words.
to interpretation though? Like, because you can say we're gonna be more transparent. Well, more transparent is very vague.
Yeah,
Like, you
that's
can
what I'm
be-
saying right
like,
now,
you can
right?
be more transparent by saying, right, okay, we have now told you that there is a delay. We have told you that there is a cancellation.
they
Like,
have to tell us
like,
that.
What? No, but
No,
what,
but I think-
what people want is we want to know exactly what is going on at times we believe to be
Yeah, because
reasonable. Like,
to be
that's
fair, it
what I
is
mean
what
more.
they've said not too long ago about updating us through their developments. So it is part of what they said. And again, it's like we will update you on how we are progressing. So I'm not expecting something at the last minute. I'm expecting something as you're going, because as you said, as we are progressing with that, as soon
want
as we
a
are
dev
able to
blog.
do so.
Or a feature blog, or have, even if it's like things that maybe aren't going to impact the final thing, get one of your researchers to write a blog article and put it out, right? Hey, this is what the researcher putting into the new game. Like, the thing is, it's not like the game has competitors really that are going to come in and steal all the secrets because they put out a blog post 6 months in advance, right? Like, if this was a more secretive space where there were like big competitors to FM and they said something and their competitor's going to copy it, then yes. But right now, like, they've got a monopoly on the sector. Just be like, hey, we're looking to put this, like, hey, one of the things we've been looking at is they've said about new animations, right? New animations. This is how we're recording them. They did put some things out like 2 years ago where they showed.
Did I not say this? This was like episodes ago. Don't you remember who had this conversation, Tony? When I was like, then why don't you just like give us some behind the
Show
scenes
people with
things with the body?
motion map
Yeah,
suits on.
I was
Yeah.
saying this at the time, like
Get us excited.
because you just got like. Again, it's just paper with well, it's not paper, but you know what I mean. Like it's just words, and we don't see no face. We don't
But
see
let's-
no human side of anything. We're literally just seeing statements after statements after statements.
I mean, look. We, without blowing our own trumpet, I think we're pretty balanced in our approach. Like in terms of like putting an equal side across as to our views. I'm sure if the opportunity came round, that they could even appear here and talk to us and say, look, right, you know what? Here's the thing. They're very, very close to launch, like what we had previously. When it was the older versions of the game, and it was coming in, and like Ian had it when he did the Football Manager show. There would be, people from the company would come on and they would talk and say, right, okay, this is how we had Nick Madden on talk about how the match engine works and the developments, and we had Andrew Sinclair on who would talk about PR. We could hopefully those conversations can still happen, and that would be great again because it's
So
another
we could do that
piece of
with
access
researchers,
to,
right? Like 'cause
to,
obviously
to
we
sort
know.
of, and researchers, and we know the researchers, we know the scouts, we know people who work in various bits and pieces. But I think once things move on a bit more and legal things have been crossed off and ticked off and all signed off, then hopefully we can have those conversations on here, and they can come and they can be open and they can be a bit more transparent with us in terms of a conversation piece, rather than, as you say, just coming on the back of a statement, and then we can maybe have a bit more rounded discussion.
I don't know if they're being too
answer-
cautious, but
Yeah,
I
so-
think they need to push Sega to be more open, like to allow them more transparency. Or it might not be Sega, it might be someone in the studio, but to be like, I know that they're cautious because there have been things like No Man's Sky where too much was promised and not enough came out, or like there was Alien Colonial Marine where the final game didn't look anything like the game that was shown, and people were like misled, and there was like a big advertising standards agency case about that, so I can understand a little bit of hesitancy there. But if you show a wireframe and you'd be like, hey, this is sort of like some of the stuff going on in the match engine, you don't have to let anything on. You should be like, hey, isn't this animation kind of cool? Isn't this, or hey, this is what it's going to look like with the licenses, or hey, this is Kevin De Bruyne's match attributes, right? Like, isn't this cool? Like, it'd just be so stupid. It could be like, hey, here's a guy who's going to be a wonder kid this year. Right?
That's my point. That's just what I was going to end off with, right? Damn it. For when I'm mad, but it is that sort of thing. So yeah, that's it. To answer your question, what sort of feedback, like what would we want from them? I would say, especially on TikTok, don't give us fantasy football stuff, and just maybe like those little TikTokies in the studio, spirits are up. You're telling us about possible wonder kids or whatever it is. Just give us something like within the studio. I don't know. That's something that I would like to see anyway. Like, if I'm waiting for a game, I'm sorry, but I just don't want to be seeing fantasy football content on their TikTok.
I don't mind the fantasy football, but it's got to be within.
Sandwiched in between
one post
Football
is
Manager
fantasy
stuff.
football. You got to have like 50%.
Honestly,
50% on Football Manager, and then 50% can be, hey, don't we all love football shirts? Hey, don't we all love fantasy football? Hey, do you remember when this happened? Like, do you remember when I don't know who Griezmann scored this goal? I'm picking Griezmann again.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
That's the thing, right? Again, 50, I'm not on TikTok a lot, so when I'm trying to do my little research and stuff about where Football Manager is, I go on Football Manager's TikTok account. It generally does look like it's just been hacked or something. When you just see like back-to-back fantasy football stuff, like, hold on a second. You're just thinking, hold on a second. This is not a fantasy football account.
Give us scraps. We want scraps. We'll fight over scraps of information.
Literally scraps. To walk around the studio.
That's all we want.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
We want scraps on the new game.
It's like what I said last week. I just want to know if you lot are alive. That's all I wanted to know.
I'm alive.
That's all I wanted to know at the time. Was like, are you not alive? That's all I wanted to know.
Well, we trust that they are.
I know they definitely are now. They definitely are now.
They definitely are. We've heard from some, so we know that they are. And
some of them, the rest of them,
we can't confirm for everybody.
That's it.
This podcast ending in a weird.
Now you've got to
tone,
finish it. Crunch time. I mean, that's a serious issue. Maybe we don't know into crunch time.
Yeah.
And to end it off with, I'm excited for the new game to come.
Eventually.
Good.
Yeah, I am.
The bit.
I'm excited. They're going to put it down for should.
It's actually positive, right? They don't want to compromise on standards, so they delayed it.
Yeah.
That means that we should get something good. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Stop doing that.
I'm going for that. That is for me. I'm happy with that, right? A new game is coming eventually, and I'm not talking about it just yet, because I don't need to talk about it just yet. It will come when it's ready.
Join us on Patreon
to
talk about the new game.
Hopium. We're huffing hopium. Huffing hopium.
I'm going to do another one, suppose.
Sorry,
I've got 2 bits to edit out there. Right, so I think that's probably the best place to leave it now then. I think we'll lock the cameras off, we'll go into Patreon, we'll start talking about what we're going to do as a three, as a collective, maybe even with wider people within the FM space. So yeah, if you want to be part of those conversations, you want to hear what we're up to, Aaron, hit that Patreon link for us again, my friend.
It is patreon.com/the FM show pod. That is patreon.com/the FM show pod.
Beautiful. And yeah, if you've enjoyed it, as Si says, do let us know, and do remind us which professional footballers you'd like us to get on the show. It starts with Antoine Griezmann, we're aware.
I mean, he's already coming on. He's on next week, so tune in for that one.
Yeah.
Are we held to advertising standards?
Well, it depends upon when we mean by next week. We might come next week, but we're not going to release it for ages. Right. Let's see if we can get 100 likes on Antoine Griezmann trying to come in. That'd be quite good. But right, take care of yourselves, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you all on the next one. Take care. Bye now.